It's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas Definitive Edition. We're here on Xbox Series S. Be sure to like the videos. Subscribing is great as well. So here we go. We've got the fully fixed, finally upgraded and enhanced with the original lighting style Grand Theft Auto Trilogy package to enjoy. It's kind of exciting and it's fantastic to be in here, taking a look at it and doing... Well, I hadn't covered Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in the Trilogy pack. At least I don't know if I did. Might have done San Andreas on the Series S, but... Anyways, I didn't really cover this stuff on Series S. And I thought, I really should. And that's kind of where we're at now, is taking a look at it, especially since it's all upgraded and ready to go, and enhanced and fixed up, and it's fantastic. And I know there's some little things here or there that, people have some complaints about, but this is probably the last big enhancement to the game, so it does restore the visual style and aesthetic that's present here. So we're here on the, I guess you would call this the fidelity, the quality mode for the Series S, with the classic lighting on, which gives it a cool bit of a cyan haze at times, which is exciting. I just killed that guy with a bike. That's so cool. So what this is it's 1440p at 30 FPS on the Series S. And yeah, this is just the styling with the original lighting and visuals. At any point, you can switch things up, and then you can turn off the classic lighting and go back to the modern visual style. I personally think it's worth taking a look at both versions of the game, just to kind of see, what lighting style you like the most. I think newer people to the franchise may kind of push more towards the modern lighting kind of standards and style. This one I think does lend itself a little bit better to that classic aesthetic, because it just kind of makes the world feel a little bit more colorful and vibrant. But this is sort of an interpretation where it's like, had this come out today, this would be kind of the style they would be going for. Visually, something that is a bit more realistic, whereas we'll go back and we'll switch it to performance mode here. We'll turn on the classic lighting, and you'll see that it's a very, very different and stylistic aesthetic to the game, which makes a big difference if you are, playing it. You'll be like I think this is, kind of a massively different visual style as opposed to the classic lighting. So here, with the performance mode, we get a drop down to 1080p, which I think is really, really quite noticeable, but still decently sharp for Series S. And then you get 60 FPS. There's supposed to be HDR across the board, if that's working for you. And yeah, it's just like the difference between the lighting is really quite fascinating, because it makes a very, very big difference from how it looks between the two. See here, this is probably what the city would look like, actually lighting-wise. But I'm sure many of the original players that played this back in the day, they want the games to look how they're supposed to look, quote-unquote, right? And then with that, you'd have the classic lighting, and it'd have like a blue kind of haze. And you can see immediately, it's just a massive aesthetic difference. I do think it's kind of cool it gives you both options, because I'm sure so many people were like, hey, this isn't how this game's supposed to look, we want the original version back. And then, when you come into remastering, remaking, rebuilding, blah, 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 re-releasing stuff, there's always the questions of, how are we interpreting this time? How is it supposed to look here? And at least they give you the option to enjoy that. And by default, you get the original aesthetic and styling. And the choice is up to you to go from there and change it if you so choose. But I'm sure lots of people will just probably keep it on the default settings and be like, oh, this looks fine, and kind of enjoy the vibe of it. Maybe some will actually find it too cartoonish. I don't know. I think it gives it a little bit more character for this game, having this styling, but you can kind of go about it your way. That is a wild-looking helicopter, or wild-moving helicopter. I was kind of hoping it would go a little lower, and then I could steal it. So 5 years ago, Carl C.J. Johnson, or just C.J., escaped the haze of Los Santos, San Andreas, the city tearing itself apart with gang trouble, drugs, corruption. Now it's the early 90s, Vice being the 80s, Liberty being the 2000s, you know, because it's a trilogy pack, so there's other games. I have videos for those ones as well on the Series S on the channel. Why, hello there. And, yeah, his mom's been murdered, his family's falling apart, his childhood friends are heading towards disaster. A couple of cops on his return home frame him for homicide. And now CJ is going on a journey across the land, the state of San Andreas to save his family, take control of the streets in this big iteration, and pretty well loved. I think this one is pretty much the best known of them. Like the three of them, it's like San Andreas is a classic. And it's kind of cool to have an excuse to revisit it again, because you know what they say. Here we go again. Yeah. Police officers, help me. I'm getting gunned down by an Uzi.
Don't annoy me again.
I got busted. That guy's Uziing me on the streets. I don't understand. I didn't even have a gun. I was just defending myself using my fists, and the cop comes and he's got the Uzi pointed at me, the other guy. He's shooting me with the Uzi, and the cop's just like, you could do that? I'm like, what's going on here? What did I ever do? I'm just walking down the street, punching people, and taking my frustration out on others. I can't handle society. And as I kind of mentioned with the other videos too of this trilogy pack, is like each of the cities has their own vibe and styling to it, and they all have their own character and uniqueness and different like little main missions you can do. And then there's also all these like side activities, and you know, and then the world kind of opens up as you do more of the main narrative, and it's got some pretty big names in it, and yeah, it's pretty well known. San Andreas is a very, very big deal, and I'd say at this point it's a pretty good way to enjoy a classic, well-loved Grand Theft Auto experience. Whether that's your first time jumping in and playing it, or somebody that's literally wanting to revisit things and enjoy a nostalgic experience. It really comes down to your interests, though, too, and how you want to experience this game. You want to, like, mess around? Do you want to go be serious about stuff? Do you want to play it with, like, a modern lens of style and aesthetic? Or do you want to play it, like, old school? And it's not bad on Series S. Like, you know, it's not necessarily pushing boundaries for something so ancient, but, you know, it's a fine way to give this a go. There's a lot to experience, a lot to see. It's a large, dense open world that's filled to the brim with activities, unique areas, challenges, and zany times. And you got like a large outback area you can visit. There's lots of funny little things to it, and a lot of heart and a lot of character. That's kind of what we've been given here, and I think the results are quite splendid gameplay-wise. I think they really did upgrade this nicely. It's great to actually have an excuse to take a look at this on the Series S, because I wasn't really going to, but then I was like, you know what, people are definitely intrigued by this, and I was like, we should, you know, I should jump in and give it a whirl and see how it looks, and it's very, very different between classic lighting and this lighting, right? Like, it is such a different vibe. Feels like almost two entirely different games. And that's where I was saying the interpretation angle. This guy wasn't even mad that I gunned down his buddies. Wow, crazy. Because this really does look like a regular kind of city, and then you know, you sit here and you pop on the classic lighting, and then it's got like this Green haze. Very, very, very different vibes. Quite noticeable in this one too. But hey, you know, if you want your nostalgic green and all that, that's kind of what you get here. It's like a... That's the best way to describe it. This, this is a very ominous, unique style. It really does look good, like it does, you know, it's... You know, you go back and maybe watch some video of like the original games and how it looked, and then you compare it to today, and it is a monumental improvement visually over that experience. All these little tweaks and adjustments and things, it's quite fascinating. All these cool landmarks, all these exciting places to visit, all these 5 stars to have to deal with. You know, why can't a guy just drive down the side of the road mowing people down anymore? What happened to the fun that this city was built on? And the quaint vibe of the 90s too, the freedom to go where you want, just do what you need. A city, oh no, that's like modernized, but also has the quaint countryside. A little bit of something for everyone that wants to steal vehicles and cause mayhem. Also lots of fun little systems on here too. You can trigger some crazy chains of events that go on. I love how there's this ridiculous, you know, kind of dense city area, then immediately like you drive 2 feet away. Big trees. Big countryside. Like obviously they're trying to like emulate, or I guess like simulate certain locations in an open world. Can only be so open, but I also think back in the day too, this must have been pretty impressive. Well, it was, you know, I'm just trying to remember it too, because it's like, this is the one we always played, like this was the most popular one and stuff like that, but it has literally been, you know, so long where you're just going off of your mind and the rose-tinted glasses. And that's where this game does a beautiful rendition of being like, you know, I remember how this game looked. And this now, I would say this is how I kind of thought the game looked, but obviously the resolution would have been a lot lower. Popping and stuff is still not great, obviously, but it's like that across the experiences. But this does seem to be like the definitive release. I can't imagine what else will drastically change in these games, and they're just kind of, to my vibe, kind of just getting them ready for that, you know, before that big Grand Theft Auto change up coming down the road. Prolapse. Ah, that's kind of funny. But it's a fun experience, it's a good time. I think you can really vibe and enjoy what this has to offer and visit all these cool places and see all these cool things, and I think you'll appreciate the visual aesthetic and styling. It's very neat. That's the big thing here, is it is very neat that they touched this up in this way, and hopefully you will appreciate that they finally did this. But like, it should have had this literally since it released, and it's a bit sad that it took this long to get to this point. It genuinely is, especially for fans where you know, forked over all this cash to grab this at the launch, and you're like, what is this? And then it takes like literally years, right? Yeah, literally years to get to the point where it's kind of how it should be. This is so weird too, because like it really should kind of look like this lighting wise, but it is also a game from a different style. Like, look how proper that lighting is. I'm not saying proper as in, oh, this is how it should be, but proper as in, like, it's actually realistic. It's the ice cream truck. Makes a big difference. It's like, I would definitely say and recommend to try the different, like, lighting modes out and kind of see what vibes best for you. Because it really does kind of give like a two different kind of games vibe. Developer vision versus original vision for something. The two don't always line up perfectly. Sometimes you get like that perfect recreation and change up, and then sometimes it's just like, this looks like, maybe that's the big issue for folks, is the fact that this the big issue is that it looks too different, right? It makes everything have like a really, maybe it's also making it feel like it's more like a visual haze of like that 90s kind of movies and stuff too here. How far away am I from like a coast area? Can you bring the chopper down a little bit lower and pick me up? Oh, there's a boat. Thank you. When you're under the water, though, the visuals are very different. I feel a little bit of hostility from those around. You know, I'm just a dude trying to live my best life out here. Is that guy after me, or is it just a cop randomly, like, driving down the street? I'll save you from these cops. Are you shooting me after I just saved you? Don't worry, I'll fix that. You're welcome, officers. I'm gonna take his gun as a collateral thing. Oh my, did I anger the snake gang? It's the tunnel snakes! Tunnel snakes don't rule! Vinewood. There's actually like a crazy level of detail behind this too. Must have been pretty special. Like that memory, I guess, literally sitting there and just like jumping from one GTA to the next really quickly, and then being like, wow, they just keep getting crazier and crazier. And then now it's like I'm just sitting here being like, decade and a half, just waiting for another one. Kind of funny. Also not, because it's sad to wait that long for games, whereas these you were getting them so quickly. Just like imagine, you know, for you newcomers, or even people I guess back then, just trying to get like a mental picture of it, because, you know, time's funny like that. You know, you're playing 3, you're like, whoa, this is amazing, this is crazy, and then it's like, bam, Vice City, you're like, oh, no way, more? And then it's like, bam, right away again, it's like, San Andreas, you're like, holy, this is crazy, this is even more. How are they doing that? How does Rockstar keep getting away with making these incredible experiences? I kind of wanted your car. It's an old classic. Thanks, man. Oh, he's getting in. Oh, no, he's not getting in with me. Leave me alone. I'm just trying to enjoy the city at night. Also, it feels like an actual city that you're in, right? For the times, you know, like for this era of like when this came out, this is a very real, lively and large-scale city. Was I seeing something through the wall there in that building? Anyways, good stay for the Series S. I can't imagine that I will really need to revisit this anytime soon on the Series S. But of course I probably will, should there be something of, you know, a necessity to come back and take a look at this. But for now, I'd say this update, it's a pleasure of an improvement. Everything is looking good here on the Series S. Very happy about it across the board. It's a good way to play these games now. I think you should be pleased no matter the type of player you are, and if it's your first time, have fun enjoying these classic Grand Theft Auto games because they are kind of splendid and great.